Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all here in this session at TNV Academy. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for today's webinar, Mr. Ajay Bajpai. In this webinar today, Mr. Ajay Bajpai will discuss about environmental aspects clause 6.1.2 of ISO 14001 Environment Management System. Our distinguished speaker, Mr. Ajay Bajpai, has done his bachelor's in engineering in metallurgy stream. He is also a lead auditor in ISO 9001, 14001, 45001, 37001, 22000, 27001, 13485, 22301, and 50001 standards respectively. He has an industrial experience of around 38 plus years in field of manufacturing, quality control, quality assurance, design services, and technical testing. He has been imparting training to a number of organizations, entrepreneurs, and individuals on various topics related to ISO terminologies and how the ISO standards are certified and implemented within an organization. It was just a brief introduction of our guest speaker today. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Ajay Bajpai. I may request Mr. Ajay Bajpai now to please take over and start the webinar.
Thank you, Apur, and good morning to you and the entire team of the participants. It gives me a immense pleasure to discuss this very interesting subject of environmental aspect with the team, and we will try to discuss the things in a way so that they are understood in a simplified manner, so that our concepts are clear and we can help industry, our clients, our service providers, manufacturers, our trainers, our consultants to see that their concepts are more and more clear and they can help and support the globe to improve upon further, because this is a global issue and aspects are directly related to the environment requirements of the entire globe. So we start the session with the clause indicating directly 6.1.2 standard ISO 14001 2015. Aspect is a very simple term to understand. It is the region which is creating the harm to the environment and ultimately the globe. What we do, we follow the principles of environmental management system ISO 14001. We also take the support of other supporting 14,000 standards and understand how the activities of ours, whether we are in office, whether we are in manufacturing sector, whether we are in transportation, whether we are in other service providing activities, how we are going to make an impact ultimately of this onto the global warming and ozone layer depletion. Temperature is increasing across the globe. We know the various regions. Ozone layer depletion is also on. These issues are discussed at global level for last few decades, and India has been very active in this. Our honorable Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi has been very active in global summits on environment, and our other minister are also equally active, and we are playing very important role in a global situation. So what is happening? We are, having the situation where we are playing with environment. We are not keeping the environment intact as per the requirement of the globe and as per the requirement of our standard ISO 14001. These aspects are also very much linked with the initial assessment of an organization when they are planning to implement other standards like quality management system, OSAS, or other standards also. When initial review is being done, initial documentation planning, initial implementation planning is being done. And today, we all know that many companies are not restricting themselves to only certification of one standard. Depending upon which sector they are operating, what are their products and processes, they go for one and more standards for certification. So when we conduct this initial review and planning, the aspect is linked to other standards also. We cannot just say we are doing an aspect identification or analysis and other standards will not be linked to it. Many of the activities we know in the standard, the clauses, the department, the functions are all interrelated. One weakness will have impact on the other. We know all that. Also, it is linked to the risk and opportunity, 6.1 clause. You see, we had a webinar on risk and opportunity. There we had a discussion in details that how to identify the risks and then how opportunity will automatically be coming as the output of risk analysis. So wherever the risks are there, opportunities are coming, they are automatically getting linked to the aspects which are going to be discussed in details today. So risk and opportunity is another very important link to our 14,001 standard documentation, implementation, and finally the certification. Again, it has a much greater link to our 5 elements of the globe. In Hindi, we say Agni, Jal, Vayu, Prithvi, Akash, and otherwise air, water, land, sky, and fire. These are the elements which constitute the globe. See, they are not unlimited quantity available to us. All these resources are limited, and with the further development of the globe, with the further colonization, with the further industrialization, with the further increase of human population, we are trying to reach the other planets. So situations are changing every day and night. So we need to see that what we have today, at least that we can conserve for our next generation to come. And our life will only continue if these natural resources are kept intact. So if we are going to understand the concepts, then further working will be simplified. For example, washing of the car. Okay, we are wasting the water in a way when we look at the aspect identification plan. Water is getting polluted. So car washing activity can be a aspect and impact will be wastage of water, pollution of water, and finally the land contamination, because this water waste sometimes is mixed with other chemicals for washing, soaps, detergent, and other chemicals which are being used by various service stations. Hi-fi service station today give hi-fi services, quick hour service, so they use various chemicals which are ultimately harmful to the land, and ultimately it all go to the land, so it creates a land contamination. So this is, we thought we'll understand what are the aspects and what are the linkages of aspects with other standards and the global requirement, global warming, ozone layer depletion, and so on, along with risk and opportunity linkage. So now let's go to the what are the desired results. What are we looking at finally when we are going to have aspects identification done? Organization team should be trained. Okay, if they are trained, they understand the conservation of the natural resources, global warming, ozone layer depletion, and how they are going to impact the globe and our life and our product, service, and other activity related with the environment management system and other management system. So then we are all upgraded as an organization, and following the aspect and finally implementing the environment management system becomes simpler for the entire organization and the entire, maybe the state or country or the globe. It also gives us an assurance that yes, the global requirement will be met, and the requirement of customers, if any. There are many customers, particularly in automotive sector, railways, airlines, when they want their suppliers and vendors to be certified to EMS. So once we have done a good identification and understanding of aspects, we can meet the requirements, and they, up to some extent, they are satisfied, yes, that their requirements as a global needs are also met with. Then we have to reduce the contaminations. We have got pure air coming from the nature, pure land is available, water also used to be pure once upon a time, we can say. Now we can only use it only after very many treatments, purifications, etc., and industry and household everywhere. So we need to make effort that aspects are such that they are able to contribute towards the reduction of the contamination. Further, move on, prevent or reduce undesired effects on global environment. See, we have to see, we normally cannot reach a situation of 100% achievement, you know. So we try to reduce these contamination, and then further we try to prevent the undesirable effect created on global environment. Land contamination by water, by air, uh, air contaminations, and mixing of various gases and all, which we are doing into industry day and every day. So that should be prevented, or efforts should be to reduce as much as to reach the ideal condition. Okay, and then environmental improvement should be seen by effective aspect identification, understanding of impact within the organization, neighborhood, and surroundings. We also have to pay attention that by our industrial activity within our company, the neighborhood environment should not be adversely affected. Our surroundings should not be adversely affected. We cannot throw our contaminated air, land, and water in the neighborhood areas and say be happy that yes, we have done our job. When we go for third party auditing, we see it very critically that they are not only responsible for controlling it within their organization, but it is a global issue, and EMS requires that the neighborhood and surroundings also needs to be taken care by the organization who is into production, service, or other related activity. So this is our thought that this is what should be achieved as a outcome of the impact control when we have identified the right kind of aspects. Moving further, we need to have a effective planning. So how do we do the planning for understanding the aspect identification? When we go for third party audits, many times we have seen that sometimes with the help of a consultant or EMS coordinator or only a team of 2 or 3 persons will conduct the exercise, which is the most important here is initial environment review. This should be a teamwork. I always say cross-functional teams, because in case of aspect identification, lot of technicalities are involved. It is not a simple, desktop review work. It is looking at the machines, equipment, products, processes. So lot of involvement of engineering team, the maintenance team, the design team, the purchase team, the stores team, the transporters within the company, and the vendors, suppliers, they are need to be involved depending upon what type of product, process, and activity we have, and depending upon the organization we have, depending upon the size and complexity of operations, we always say. But involvement of team is there so that we don't miss out the important point, and we are conceptually clear upon what can be the aspect identified and what are the impacts in reality, not just looking at theoretically sitting in the conference room. And we should develop a strong, when I say strong, documentation should be having its weight. It should be duly approved, authorized, documented, communicated, and it should be meaningful. Into auditing, we find sometimes aspects are there which we don't find any value. They just say, yes, there are 10 aspects are identified. Out of them are two significant. But we as a auditor who has a lot of technical experience for this kind of auditing understand in a few minutes, few seconds, depending upon individual auditor's capability, that these aspects are not meaningful. They will not be add value to the organizational EMS. They will also not able to add any value to the global environment. And then documentation should be smart, I always say, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and target or time oriented. Any aspect identification done, any impact coming out of it, if it is not supported by a smart documentation, not supported by a smart objective, not supported by smart risk and opportunity planning, will not add value to us. Also, we need to understand the life cycle of the products. Okay, in an organization, when a raw material is entering, ultimately it is going through various systems, subsystem processes, sub processes till it reaches the customer and we get the customer feedback. Customer feedback here will be with respect to the aspect, impact, and environmental condition getting necessary effect or undesirable effect because of our activity which had gone through into reaching the product, process, or service to them finally. And how are we going to do the final disposal when rework, the wastage, all these are identified into this various process. So we need to understand the life cycle of the products and understand the processes when we are getting into the planning of the aspect identification and the impact coming out of it. Also, lot of changes are happening around the globe, into the companies, into our surroundings, into our way of transportation, into our handling, into our running of the machines and operations. So these changes, they needs to be included and discussed when we are conducting a initial environment review and when we are going to identify the aspect. Because unless we understand the changes, our calculations, our charts will not be giving us the indications of what we are looking for. There can be a lot of abnormal conditions also, like when we discuss of impact identification and their real calculations done. There can be floods, there can be famines, there can be earthquakes, there can be strikes, fights, accidents, several things which are unforeseen, which comes out of any kind of emergency situations. They need to be considered when we are into a planning situation for aspect identification and further controls. So now we have done the planning part. So we go to the next chapter, which is the action plan. So by conducting a effective initial environment review involving the team, looking at into a situation where the technical team, technical people are involved, cross-functional team concept is involved into discussions, then we come out with a chart or matrix of aspect and impact, where one side we will have the aspect and the other side the impact is put into a format or register or record or SAP or ERP, whatever may be the system of the documentation. It is the responsibility of finally the third party auditor who will see how to get into a value addition mode when conducting the internal audit or second party audit or third party audit. But this creation of matrix, documentation of this chart is a teamwork, effective IER. And I always say, and our kind of team of auditors will always say that please go to the workshop, please stand in front of the machine, please see how the loading and unloading is done. Please,
Sir, what is IER? Sorry to
initial
interrupt.
initial environment review.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, okay. So this, once we are ready with our aspect impact chart prepared, and we know what are the aspects which are going to have a greater impact on our organizational environmental behavior and our output of the product and process, this needs to be communicated. Unless effective communication of aspects is done throughout the organization and throughout the interested parties, the desired results will not be achieved. Unless the interested parties are aware that their work, their actions will be adversely affecting the parameters. So they should know this is the impact of this kind of aspect which is applicable for me. I am a supplier of raw material, say sheet metal, to say Indian Railways, Ambala, and I am utilizing a transporting activity which is not as per the requirement of the environment management system. It is against the aspect identification done for the transporting and loading unloading activity. Emissions are created which are going to affect the environment via his transportation methods and via his loading and unloading process. So this communication is very required for effective implementation and understand that we can achieve the desired results. Then come to monitoring of all the processes. We have seen in organization they will identify number of aspects, but then monitoring is not effective. Okay, and how the effective monitoring to be done so that the impact is reduced. We have to always keep on seeing that if on 1 to 10 scale, today on 5th July the impact value is 9, and if we are not monitoring our welding process or our the melting process or the transportation process, then how the impact of that on environment will reduce. So monitoring of all the processes, when I say all the processes related to our uh, chart developed as matrix of aspect impact. One can do other monitoring for other purposes, but for aspect impact we have to specifically have a monitoring done so that the impact is getting reduced, and finally we reach the level where we are under a situation of control. Okay, also we have, during this exercise of planning, conduct effective analysis of the processes so that the possible opportunities for impact reductions are being achieved and priorities of the customer and the globe and our future generations are met with. So now we have done a good planning. After making a good plan, we will further understand the documentation and implementation. So documentation is definitely required so that we can have records, we can have effective implementation, we can conduct internal audit, we can face second party audit, we can finally get into third party auditing and get certification as and when required with the help of effective aspect identification. So this documentation of aspects and related associated impact needs to be made, and it should be communicated, it should be made available to the person at the place where it is being utilized for impact controls. Also, when we are going this documentation into process, the criteria needs to be identified clearly. There can be 10 aspects we have identified. Out of them, one or two can be significant. Significant selection needs to supported by the criteria. Normally what companies do or companies should be doing is, they set up their own criteria depending upon if it is going to legal. They say it will definitely be significant, or it is on a rating scale 1 to 10. They say the moment it crosses the 8 rating, it becomes a significant. This is because of their experience, by their expertise, and with the help of technical consultants or EMS consultants, they can take a decision of development of a criteria that which one will be going to a significant aspect status, so that they start taking immediate action on that. Okay, so significant environment aspects will be one which will be requiring generally the immediate action, so that the environmental improvements are seen significantly. So it is very, very related. Significant term is very, very clear and conceptually understood that yes, what are the significant aspects. And then once we have the documentation ready, the planning, the training of the team is done, concepts are clear, our team knows, including interested parties, of what are our desired results and output. What are we going to achieve ultimately with this aspect identification and development of impacts, and finally giving training and documentation. So we need to run the processes. What all processes we have identified, we have documented. Not that we were not running the processes earlier, but now we are running the processes with a plan, in a planned manner. We have got it. We have got the charts and plans available. Our team is trained. So we are having a organized running of the various processes in context of aspect, and finally the impact of theirs onto the environment. This chart data needs to be updated on a continual improvement path. This, as and when we notice some changes are required, as and we see that some values are going out of the control or reaching the limits. The requirement is to have 75 dB in an industrial state of Haryana for a DG set. So the moment we reach a level sometimes of 73, 74, lights should be on alert mode, that yes, we are required to do some updation into products, processes, charts, calculation, training, oiling, maintenance procedure. So this updation of data in this chart is very, very important. Depending upon the product, process, and experience of the organization, they keep on updating the data. But into third party auditing, we find situation that updations have been done, but at times they are not been reflected into the charts. So the recommunication has not been done. So somebody in the organization on a horizontal or a vertical level is following and somebody is not following. So the results will keep on varying at times for similar types of processes also, with respect to the aspect identification done and the impact seen. So it is important that updation of documentation is done uh, as soon as possible. I would say almost immediately, before the next process can get and poor impact on the environment. Now, conduct the accurate and precise calculation after implementation. We see in organization we are into auditing and training day in day out. So we discuss with the team and we understand that the calculations at times are not done with a conceptual thing that yes, we have to really control and improve upon the flow and the aspect to give desired value. People lot of many times move with the feelings, and they go by thoughts. Yeah, I can see the smoke is good. I can feel the vibration is under control. I can see the noise is good. I was into one of the organizations who was supplying very critical components to the Indian Railways, and I saw their aspect impact calculation, their charts, and they were showing the noise level is under control. And the moment I took round of the workshop, by experience, I could feel that yes, the noise level is more. So I asked them, don't you have the same feeling which I have from my team members? So they also said, good, let's get into checking mode. Let's do the checking done in the workshop. So luckily they had the noise level meter, dB meter, so they brought it, and we found that the noise level was more. So many times we observed that people will write some readings particularly when we go into surveillance audits. Few organizations try to avoid getting the environmental performance studies not done. They try to write the readings just like that by using the feelings and say it is good or it is bad, but that's not the fact. If we really need to have impact brought under control, and our chart is going in the positive direction, then the correct calculation, correct readings, training of these teams who can actually take the correct readings by utilizing the calibrated machines and equipment. That's another important part. When we were discussing calibration, we thought we'll discuss this when we come to other chapters. So here, when we look at the accuracy and instrument, the calibration is required to that extent where it is going to accept the noise value or vibration value or the the stack analysis and so on. Then comes review the data, facts and figures. We have done the implementation. So we have come to a situation. See, this is an ongoing process also, that we are reviewing the data, but in a systematic way also. The data review, the review of facts and figures is required so that we can optimize the resources. Because at times organization feels that we are investing more, the return of investment onto the environment effort is not what we expected. So we need to do the effective review of data and fact and figures. That is why I say the correct and accurate data, correct and accurate calculations, correct and accurate recordings, by utilizing the trained team and by having the calibrated instrument and machines as per requirement, and then putting the facts into the papers and records, not trying to avoid the facts and figures, but to bring it down to the environment management team, the aspect identification team, the IER team, the cross-functional team, who then can take effective actions to improve upon further. So now we are going to the analysis and what future actions are required and can be taken by your team of implementation. So in the beginning, I said the IER or this beginning of the activity for aspect and then coming to impact needs to be a cross-functional team and group work. So they should keep on studying it all the time. Not that when surveillance audit is coming, just before that, conduct an exercise. It is in the benefit of the organization. It is in the benefit of the individual. It is in the interest of the entire global generation to see that we can have effective aspect impact, which will improve upon the environmental performance of the organization and the globe to survive for all of us. This monitoring of data can be done by using various techniques, as we have been discussing earlier also. The number of techniques are available whereby the data analysis can be done. SPC, SQC, cause and effect diagram, run chart, P charts, N charts, So several methods are available, several softwares are available today. There are organizations who are developing the software who can be straight away put into the organization, and aspect impact with the help of the teams comes out, and they also indicate how the analysis will be done so that we know the trends, what values are increasing, what values are reducing, how the customers are getting affected environmentally when we supply to them, how we are getting affected adversely when our vendors, our suppliers are giving us raw materials, supplied products or services are being supplied. So monitoring of data is another very important aspect of the aspect identification and aspect impact chart. See how logically things are moving. Then we need to conduct a effective environmental internal audit. Can be done by the organization teams themselves, can be done with the help of an external consultant, but I want to focus upon that this team of internal auditor who is going to conduct the audit of aspect impact activity should be effectively trained with the concept of aspect identification, IER, impact of the aspect, legal requirement, environmental values, the noise values, the stack emissions, the gas emissions, the concept of ozone depletion, the concept of global warming, the concept of water wastage, water control, concept of internal satisfaction, internal customer, external customer satisfaction with respect to aspect. So if they are trained effectively for this activity, then only they can conduct the effective audit of aspect impact and activity. We have seen into third party auditing that sometimes non-technical team or non-trained team has done the audit of this particular activity. So results were as expected by us. Nothing is coming out for further development, improvement. Some auditors have just ticked off, yes, yes, verified, yes, yes, okay, found the value 8, 9. But yes, how the value has been arrived? Have you been trained to do the analysis and the method of reaching at the value of 8 or 7 or 6? Do you understand the concept of significant environmental aspect and then following the results of the impact? So unless these concepts are clear with the internal auditor, the results will not be what we expect actually. Then once we do that, then we are supposed to conduct an effective environment review meeting where the data, facts and figures on aspect impact analysis are presented. And we always suggest that at least a discussion should be conducted very clearly reflected into the record that you have touched upon and verified the significant aspect. At least sometimes organization will say I have so many things to do, but at least we'll like to verify that they understand the concept into the environment review meeting, that management team is clear that there were 2 or 3 significant aspects maybe. Out of them, now it is only one on which they are attempting, because all aspects cannot be attempted to control simultaneously. Organization do it one by one depending upon their size, capability and the available time with their the team. So significant aspects handling is very typical into environment review meeting also. If we don't see that, then we have doubts on the capability, capacity and the training done in the past in the organization. So now whatever actions are coming out of this effective environment review meeting, there needs to be implemented. Responsibility, authorities and resources have to be allocated into the environment review meeting, and then they have to implement it. And monitoring is again very important. We see ERM minutes of meeting, and we found that what was discussed 3 months back, actions are not to that extent. Why not? So we discuss, we raise non-conformities or observation depending upon what missed out, how missed out, why missed out, and what were the details of technicalities with respect to the aspect identification done. And finally, the theme of the environment standard, the aspect identification, the impact planning, the legal understanding interrelated with the aspect identification, all that should be leading us to improvement within the organization, improvement into the culture of the organization, improvement in the thoughts of interested parties, our customer, our vendors, and environmental performance should be seen improving slowly, day by day. It will not happen in one day. It is a slow process. All this identification and implementation. So our expectation should also be moving as per the size, type, capability, and the situation of the organization. And particularly when we go into the surveillance audits, we want to definitely verify what aspects has been changed, what new impacts has been coming out of the new design changes, unexpected conditions, and the impact of the customer requirement changing. So all this we study into the surveillance audit particularly, and more significantly into recertification audit, how they are further identifying, what further training they are giving, because the the globe is changing. Everything is subject to change. Even the team of organization is changing. Departmental changes are being done. So somebody who is working on a particular aspect for last 3 years has been shifted. So what do we do? How we further improve this new team, this new members, this new design with respect to aspect needs to be implemented. Then only the improvements will be seen. So this is what I had to discuss. And if you have questions, I welcome a few of the questions. Apurv and other team members can ask few questions, quick ones. Yeah.
Sir, kindly explain the last that this processor, the last this aspect and impact, this thing.
The whole thing was aspect and impact only which we were discussing.
Analysis,
Everything.
actually it was analysis. I wanted little elaboration from your part to understand more.
Analysis comes by experience only. Analysis is something which you have to learn the techniques of doing the analysis, understand the concept of analysis. Then you can have data in front of you, and then you can apply different techniques, SQC, cause and effect diagram, R run, P chart. Organization use various techniques depending upon their capabilities of the employee, and then do the analysis, and they come out with the positive trends,
Sir,
positive
initially
results.
you said that study the aspect impact chart in small groups. We need to have some cross-functional teams working on that, and they will prove that what is the opportunities of improvement and how we can improve.
Yes, definitely.
Acha.
Yeah.
And then this conduct the effective environmental internal audit that is done by IER team.
That is done by
IER
internal
team.
audit is always done by qualified and qualified auditors. Okay.
Okay.
They can be into any team. Okay, but they should not do self audit. That is the concept. Otherwise, they can conduct the audit of any function if they are trained. Particularly for aspect, the concept should be clear to an internal auditor. Then only the results come out.
Sir, will the recording be provided? Link.
I think we will give opportunity to others also to ask questions.
Sure,
Okay,
sure, sure.
let some others also come
Thank you,
to
sir.
ask a
Thank you.
question. Yeah.
Sir, sorry to interrupt. This webinar will
Yeah.
be posted on our YouTube channel, which is TNV Academy. So as and when you want to review the whole webinar once again, you can go to the channel itself and you can watch the whole webinar.
That is why I invited Apurv. I wanted you to reply this question.
Okay,
Okay.
sir. Thanks.
For the benefit of all participants. Okay. Any other questions?
Next participants can ask their question as well if they have any.
Hello, sir. I have a question.
Yes.
Is there a frequency at which an organization should review and revise the identified environmental aspects?
You see, this purely depends upon the product, process, and the experience, and the happenings, and the results coming out of the data analysis. It is all a viewpoint of what is happening at the ground level and how the results are being shown. What are the trends? Based upon that, they review it. But as third-party trainers organization, we always say that once in a year before we go for audit, they have to do it. But ultimately, it depends upon the results. The review is required.
Okay, thank you, sir.
If no other question, then it is back to you, Apurv.
Any other questions from any other participants?
Sorry, I cannot hear it. आवाज नहीं आ रही है.
Sir, one participant is trying to ask a question. I'll ask him to put it in the chat box. I'll ask him on his behalf. No worries.
Okay.
Sir, what is the question which I have come up with is what is the difference between direct environment aspect and indirect environment aspect?
See, technically speaking, I don't want to classify direct or indirect aspects. It is the organization. They have to classify and they have to define what can be good or bad in their views with respect to their processes according to their concept and understanding of their product and process. What is the direct or what is the indirect aspect? Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. If any other participants has any questions, they can please ask.
Sir, one thing last, can please share some example of direct or indirect so that we'll be able to visualize more.
No, that is the organizations, their own viewpoint. We don't give, these kind of examples which are not under our purview.
No,
Okay,
sir,
we have,
sir, one thing more, if we go as an auditor to an organization and we find that this impact is a very significant and it has a critical impact.
there is nothing
So,
like significant impact. It is aspect which is significant.
okay. I may be wrong. My apologies for that.
No, that's okay. My job is to clear the
Sir,
concept.
right, we are learning from you. That's why we are asking.
Yes, yes.
जब तक आप पूछेंगे नहीं सर हमें भी समझ कैसे आएगा
नहीं
ऐसे
नहीं
ही
बिल्कुल
simple है।
बिल्कुल पूछिए ना।
सर मेरा मीनिंग ये था कि अगर हम वहाँ विजुलाइज करते हैं देर इज समथिंग सीरियस थिंग इज गोइंग ऑन दैट इज अगेंस्ट द एनवायरनमेंट और इट हैज गॉट अ वेरी क्रिटिकल इम्पैक्ट so we can treat it as a direct from our own part or they have not noted it they are not notified it then what we should do.
All that depends upon a
नहीं
auditing
सर मैं आपसे
situation.
पूछ रहा हूँ सपोजिंग
Where
this
are
situation
you?
arises
What you
arises
see? You see what is the kind of impact it has. What is organization own rating system is saying. First of all, when we are conducting the audit, we do conduct a document review. See, audit is conduct of a review of document. It consists of interviews. It consists of looking at the physical situation. So we always use these three concepts and then take a decision with the help of a senior auditor with us and the environment coordinator before reaching to any conclusion. We do not try to say this is significant or this is not significant in our own ways or in our own perspective. We always have a discussion and then we come out with a result of it.
okay sir thank you.
Yeah, and we normally, into auditing discussions, I always appreciate that we don't use things like good, very good, very good, very serious, unserious. We try to make a habit to talk in the language of the standard. Then things will improve upon into our concept, like we talk of aspect, significant aspect, impact, rating, charts, values, and so on. Because there's nothing like serious or unserious. Something can be serious in your situation.
It has to be in statistical value sir.
Yes. So we always talk of a value related approach.
Sir, one participant has put his question in the chat box. If you can please answer that.
Yeah, I saw it, but it had disappeared. Can you read it?
I can read it, sir. He has put
I go to
that do an organization have to communicate the identified significant aspects to all its personnel working within the organization?
I have also read it, but I wanted you to read so that the question is clear. You see, it depends upon who is responsible for taking the actions, or when I have been defining interested party, the concept is very, very clear. Whosoever is interested with that aspect should be identified and he should be notified, he should be communicated so that he can take effective actions. Okay. Whether it is
Thank you.
significant or not significant, but communication must reach to the person who is responsible for taking some actions on that particular aspect. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. I hope that the person who asked the question is satisfied from the answer.
I
Yeah, we
wanted
have
to
got his
have
answer
a,
as well.
I wanted to have a good breathe, so I thought you read it.
No worries, sir.
Okay. Yeah,
And the participant has put in his answer as well. Thank you so much.
yeah, I can read that. Yeah.
If anyone else has any other questions, so they can ask. Otherwise, we can conclude the session.
And further questions, if also are there, which may come after going through videos and more clear understanding of the clauses, you can always send through a mail to our office team and we will give you a reply. Don't worry on that. Our idea is to see that our team is having more and more clear concept, so that the global change comes into with respect to the environment for aspect, impact, identification, and conduct of the activity. Yes, Apur.
I guess there are no more questions from any of the participants, so we can now conclude the session. So I would say that I'm glad that we have been extremely benefited by the knowledge shared by you on such a vast and complex terminology, which is also a very critical element in the implementation of ISO 14001 standard. I can also say with much confidence that our participants must have enjoyed the context of today's webinar, and it will add value to their expertise and domain of work as well. I thank you from the bottom of my heart on behalf of TNV Academy for giving your valuable time and accepting our invitation to be the guest speaker for today. I also thank all the participants for taking out time from their busy schedule and joining us in the webinar today. Without your participation, it would not have been a successful webinar. So thank you so much. I hope to see you all again soon. Wish you all best of luck on behalf of TNV Academy for your future endeavors. And also in the end, I would like to say that I have put the name of the YouTube channel in the chat box on which all the webinars are uploaded, which are being conducted by us. So as and when you want to review these webinars, you can go to the YouTube channel and you can see and watch these webinars done by us live and absolutely free. And if you have any questions on these webinars as well, you can simply put your reply on that and our team will be answering to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye. Wish you all a best of luck. Thank you.